I will never look at windmills the same again.
Don Quixote said the same thing. Hello and welcome to the In the Den podcast. It's me, Crapstorf, here with HotBoySpicy. We
Hey.
have finished Can't Figure Out World. We're almost there. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're almost done with Bleach, baby. We can finally read a second thing
No!
or watch a second thing.
No! Bleach
Well, I mean,
forever!
on one hand, well, hey, you've been saying it's like, you kind of want to move on, like, even though it's like Bleach is really good, but also it's like we've been talking about it for half a year.
I think I think a part of that is because like not only just this podcast, but I'm like consistently typing about it to Radmans. It's okay. It's calmed down a little bit after we finished the manga, partly to do with Radman as well. He's been less frequent on Discord. It seems like he's on the YouTube grind right now. But God, for a while there, it was just constant me talking about Bleach, me rapping about Bleach on this podcast, me rapping about Bleach on fucking Twitter, me doing it with Radman. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, so. But it's calmed down a lot, and I've been able to look toward other series right now. So Bleach it's more balanced, right? So now it's more of like oh shit, it's coming to the close. That's kind of sad because yeah, it's just it's a huge slingshot for me, man. It's like where Bleach didn't used to be on my mind very often before we started this. Now it's on my mind a lot because I got so much more out of the content in the reread to an insane degree. And
Absolutely,
partly
yeah.
because of talking to you, of course, and talking to Radman, of course. 'Cause
Having
you
the
guys,
comments, asking,
yeah,
just like,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. The comments have helped immensely as well, too. Yeah.
And yeah, well, because you mentioned like, I'm also not going to be out of Bleach. Very like, I'm really not because I think I have 5 videos planned, where I get to talk about it. So because I came up with another idea or
Oh,
two.
nice.
Because I'm still doing the ones that or actually hold on, let me think. Or let me just list them off for my sake. So the Arankar video talked about Aizen, in the content and the Espada, the Yovaha one and how he lost. The Toxic Masculinity one is currently that one might end up on Mathwiz's channel instead, but I've still written the script already. I want to do one. I thought about while editing the last podcast because you talked about the Hado parallel between Urahara and Aizen, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh wait, and I asked Radman, and no, there really has like there have been people like lightly comparing them, but there hasn't been a big deep dive comparison between the two, and he was thinking about doing something like that, but another video, I guess, and he was like, hey, if you do it, I can just reference your video, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I will do it then. And then the last one is currently it's talking about some of the fights in the Hueco Mundo section of the Arrancar arc, and then some of the fights in the Enies Lobby section of One Piece, and sort of talking about how, like, I think I talked about where it's like you have the character themes, and then you have the arc themes, and if you can sort of draw the line of the characters, and it's like, yeah, if they're doing this fight in this arc, it's like it's relevant to the arc theme, but it also still matches their own individual character theme, and I want to just sort of talk about that idea through those two stories, basically. Yeah, that's currently 5 Bleach ideas.
Jesus. Nice. Well,
I
hey.
have also been quelling urges to watch the anime because I feel like it's got to exist, right? But it's like, are there smart, good faith people like talking about the Bleach anime and its differences from the manga and not just like bashing it because it's like maybe there's some good, interesting stuff in the anime that's not part of the manga, or had adapted really well, even though I believe there's some issues, at least in the first series. So I've been thinking about doing that, but it's also like I can't watch a 400 episode anime right now. Like I'll just
Yeah.
I've got other projects I'm fucking hyper fixating on, and other idea, like I got 5 other Bleach videos to do first, so it's like, well, shit. So that's another Bleach idea, but it's not one I want to necessarily do. I feel like, yeah, I'm in my brain, it's because I just remember hearing about how they do some changes towards like Ichigo and Rukia's dynamic to make it seem more romantic, and they tone back Ichigo and Orihime's dynamic to make it feel less romantic, which is like, oh, that's that they took an L there. The staff
Yeah,
who
it's
made that
not.
choice. But I'm also curious about like the strengths of the adaptation, even if it's ultimately like not as good as the manga. And I'll probably talk about Thousand Year Blood War too, but
I can
if
tell
I
you
do
it's
like
number
a
one
full,
strength
I know it's
already.
number one strength. Shiro
Well,
Sagisu is. I've been
yes.
listening to some Bleach soundtracks.
Yes.
And
Okay.
it's,
Okay. So you know.
yeah, trust me, I know. It's like, yeah. Anyway, Oh fuck! I didn't read the comments. But that said, I don't think there were that many anyway. So
There's
I don't
only 3,
think,
so it's fine.
yeah, were any of them?
And the only one of substance. I'm sorry, Otis, and well, Otis is a friend of mine, so actually, fuck you, Otis. I'm not sorry. Go fuck
Well, I
yourself.
mean,
Bro. We're not reading Epo, Otis.
I like
Crafts
Ipo,
would have
but
to
it's
mention
it's
it.
not. It's
Yeah.
no, we haven't.
And honestly, that would be one I turned down, Otis. I'm not fucking reading that long ass series, okay?
It's really good, but it's also yeah. I understand not feeling like just going through that. Just yeah. Maybe watch it first because it's shorter that way, and you still get like a good story, and that might be
Yeah.
interested in reading the manga eventually. But it's 140 volumes. It's not. It's literally almost twice the length of Bleach. And it's still ongoing. There's still no ending in sight. It makes One Piece look like a baby. Yeah. But yeah, Askin's comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, even Askin's comment is basically just saying like, yeah, I might write something when you guys finish volume 3, basically. Like, because the reason he hasn't been commenting is because he would have to be referencing stuff we hadn't read
No,
yet.
it's definitely the kind of thing where you have to. It's the kind of story
Yeah.
where you really can't talk about it without having the whole picture. Like we have been, but it's even then it's just kind of like, oh, I hope we get the rest of it, or I'm curious to see the rest of it. Waiting for the rest of it. Come on,
Yeah.
like that's just it's like it's fucking what. Almost 1,000 pages of build up to those last 300, or like 700 pages of build up to the last like 300 pages that are really good. I mean, it's all good, but like all that.
Yeah, but I
is
mean,
cool
1 and
on
2
its
are
own.
really just a lot of setup. It is set up
Yes.
for like and it's brilliant because the payoff is there. It is so there. It's more
Yes.
there than it could ever be. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Volume 3 was not overhyped on my vantage, and it lived up to the hype for me because and that shows in how much I wrote for Volume 3, especially compared to Volumes 1 and 2. So yeah.
But yeah, before we get to the novel, I do want to highlight the afterword, because basically from the sounds of it is that like Kubo obviously came up with like the setting. And I'm sure he had character notes and stuff, but really it was Ryogo Narita who put it all together. Big props to him because like he's another creator, so it makes sense that he'd be good at reading into Bleach and really understanding Bleach, right? So and being able to make sense, like because it's the one thing that we have to talk about is that he's kind of like I had moments where I like realized something and I write it down and then he'd literally explain it. And I'm like he's made it's more obvious, I guess, in that way because it's a novel, so there's a level of like he's explaining things that like and if you were reading it, like it's not like it's dialogue, right? Like so you just see it and you'd have to piece it together yourself. But since it's a book, he can explain it in the narration and just really drive in, which I don't think it doesn't hurt it at all. But it's definitely just like and if like I said, if anything, it shows you like this guy. He gets a lot out of Bleach, and he's able to show that in his take on these characters and this story, right? Because it's from what I can gather, I assume he largely developed some like maybe not Tokinada, but like Hikone and Ara, I imagine he primarily conceived. I would guess just because it's like from what I said I got out of the afterword, but maybe you had a different read.
I actually didn't read that. I didn't know there was more.
Fool. Motherfucker.
So hey, this is new information for me, man. I'll have to read it after we conclude this. But you're telling me what you're saying. It sounds to be the case. So, but yeah, no. I might even leave a comment in this next video saying like, oh hey guys, I read it and I think exactly what Crafts thinks. Okay, bye. But no, I guess I didn't scroll down on the document I'm reading it from. So shit, I just read the final chapter and was like, okay, that's done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
All right.
My apologies,
so,
guys.
Where do you want to start with Can't Fear Your Own World Volume 3?
I don't necessarily know if we want to go in sequential order. Especially because
I feel like maybe by character might be the thing that makes the most sense, and then if we have anything else at the end we want to talk about that we didn't talk about, we can.
Yeah, I'm just gonna freeform it, go by my notes,
yeah.
honestly, just because that's I think the best way to go. Because my notes are kind of just it's definitely it's going to be harder for me to go character by character since my notes are kind of everywhere. I'm the most unorganized person, but we can make it work. Fuck it. Let's. Yeah. What do you got to say first?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like right away it just starts paying things off, basically. Like, well, because even just the interludes with Hikone being just this like being existence of like conflicting ideals and like sources of power that sort of like basically just like this entity of chaos and nihilism that Tokinada gave purpose and meaning. I just thought that was an interesting way to think of Hikone. So just something to start with. And
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just sorry, just looking through my notes.
So, but I'll say, hey, you got to see Hisagi's bankai. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, it's really fucking cool, and it's really meaningful to his like character arc, and just really fitting to his character, and like just seeing the art after having it described was like, let's fucking go. Like bankais are always cool, and
Always.
it's like, well, if you're gonna make a 3 novel series, kind of just to like, because there was even the bonus chapter which just kind of goes over the ending of Bleach again from Hisagi's perspective with him, like it literally just rewrites his banter with Hisugaya and Drankiku of him just saying like, I have my bankai, I swear.
It's funny
right?
because I literally point that out in my notes, and then they go over it again anyway at the end. I was like, oh damn, I guess that note is because I was saying like before his bankai was even revealed, I wrote a note in there. I was like, oh hey, we're like going to be getting substance now on Hisagi's quote. We're getting that actualized now. Like, oh yeah, he did. This is where he learns bankai in this fucking novel. He just hasn't had a chance to use it yet because it's been peaceful, I guess, after this. Like I literally wrote all that, but it doesn't matter because it explicitly tells us.
Exactly, right. That's what I was getting at earlier, where it's like like the substance is good, but also it's like it reminds it's sure to highlight a lot, not all of it, of course. Like there's always more subtext to glean. But
oh yeah, and I got plenty of that out of even this, so that's good. Mm-hmm. That's good. That there's some stuff that can be spelled out and a lot of subtextual shit too. Yeah, I appreciate that as well. Even if it's not completely all Kubified in the fact that like, because like a lot of this would have been highly condensed if Kubo was working with it like in manga form, right? Like. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
way less dialogue, probably. And just it's a completely different experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's like worse or anything.
Mm-hmm. And I guess what I was saying or trying to get at was that like, if you're going to give like Hisagi's bankai specifically so much build up, like the first novel has Hisagi on it because he's the star of the show, right? So it's like it better be a fucking cool bankai. And it was a fucking cool bankai.
It might be like one of the coolest bankais, actually,
like,
if that. Like it's the most Soul Reaper bankai out of all the Soul Reapers. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, mastery over life and death, right? And
yeah.
Well, like even the fact that it like because it builds up with the mystery of the exploration of the Soul King and the history with that, and it like they highlight how it's like this is because like life and death don't exist. He's basically he puts his enemy in the same state that was before the Soul Reapers were a thing. Right, so it's the most Soul Reaper bankai, but it also evokes the world before that, and even just like even excluding like the meaning and stuff, like it just looks cool. Like it's edgy as shit, like the chains and the way like he just gets his body ripped apart and like stitches it back together, and he's got the black sun of chains, and it's like holy fucking shit, let's go.
Yeah, it's really cool. He literally makes his own like. Moon of Fate in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Black Moon, yeah.
With the Black Moon Rising type thing, which is parallels the Ichigo stuff, which I'll mention that later, but it's later on in my notes. I think I mentioned Ichigo a couple times, how him and Hisagi sort of parallel in their journeys a little bit, but one of the first notes I have is just I don't know if this is actually worth mentioning. It's cool to see another example other than Yubachika of a Soul Reaper calling their Zanpakuto the wrong name and getting a different ability out of it. Yeah.
Well, actually, so that actually leads me to something I really, especially chapter 23, because like I don't know, something about that, like, because I mean, I talked about before with Aura as well, where it's like, okay, what if we had a Fullbringer that didn't have an attachment to anything, right? So it's like, oh, she would develop her other natural Fullbringer abilities that the other, we don't really see the other Fullbringers do the close to the crazy shit she does, right? With like,
Yeah.
she's basically like, how do I put this? Like I'm trying to think of like my brain went to like Pokemon. I don't know that you've played Pokemon or not. But it's like she took tackle and she somehow made it the best move in her arsenal, right? Like a lot of Pokemon.
I'm
get a
familiar
basic
with
move
it
like
enough
okay.
to know the reference. Yeah,
Like the mechanics don't work like that, but that's kind of like what she did, right? She took your basic attack and made it
yeah,
like max
yeah.
level because everybody else just ignores it and does other stuff that's cooler and more interesting and more versatile. But I can't even say more versatile because she's fucking insane. A wild power set. But I was gonna bring up chapter 23 in particular because like that chapter had so many fascinating power interactions and layered power interactions. I was losing my mind because like
Yeah, yeah.
because that was so you had the Fullbringer stuff, and like you had Kyoka Suigetsu. You had like what was it? So Aura was stopping Kyoka Suigetsu by touching everything, all of it, because if you're touching Kyoka Suigetsu, it can't be unleashed. Um,
Yep.
but
Touching
then
all the fucking pieces of it being shattered, like it's fucking crazy. And
But
then the
Tokinada was also
Shinji
using. No, I was gonna
using
say even before that, Tokinada was using Yumichika's Shikai ability to drain
drain aura. Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, so Aura's immense store of spirit energy was slowly being drained. Like so, it's like you had her countering him, but then because he has all the powers, he counters her. And then yeah, the Shinji thing where it's like so. Um, yeah, he uses or Shinji uses his Shikai to block Hisagi's perception so that he doesn't see Kyoka Suigetsu get unleashed, and thus continues to be immune to the powers. And then I like the way they also use that to contrast Tokinada and Aizen, and just like highlight how it's like, yeah, Tokinada has all these powers, but he isn't as capable as a lot of their users. Some of them, like Yamada in particular, they highlight how it's like, yeah, he's using Yamada's ability, but much better. But with like,
Yeah. With like
Yamamoto and
Yamamoto.
Aizen,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
he was very much like subpar. And
Like
yeah,
I think it even noted, even with Yamamoto's, it noted like if he could use Yamamoto's to its full degree, he could have just scorched them all in an instant. Like he could have just been done with it way easier. And yeah, so. But
yeah,
even
the way
still,
they,
even if he did,
yes,
that's Tokinada wouldn't have done it anyway, right? That's another cool layer
it
to
wouldn't
that.
be
Is like
fun. Yeah.
even if he had the option, he wouldn't do that, right? It's too
Right.
fun,
And
or that's
the
no
way
fun.
it,
That's too quick.
the way it retroactively adds to Aizen, where it's like, oh, like, because there's that obvious, like, quote unquote plot hole of, like, well, why didn't Aizen use Kyoka Suigetsu on Ichigo, right? And, like, I always framed it just like the symbolic thing is that I like, Ichigo doesn't fall into, like, preconceptions, right? And especially now with Aizen, who's this guy that I never knew. So it's, like, symbolic, and Aizen runs a lot on that with the Soul Society, who has their image of Aizen in their head that they struggle to shake. So like especially Momo gets the short end of that stick. But so
Yeah.
I always framed it that way. But it's like no, it's like as long as Shinji was around, like that would reasonably fail. And Aizen, he's a smart guy. He thought about that already. So it's like he wasn't gonna open himself up to that, and and of course he's also fostering Ichigo, so he's gonna he does multiple things to give him chances, right? Like with the getting rid of the Kototsu sweeper, and
Yeah.
giving him that time zone to train,
Yeah,
basically. So
a part of it was pride on his end too, of course, because he wanted to, Ichigo. He was watching his growth, he was predicting his growth, and he wanted to crush that growth with sheer might, kind of thing as well. That's also another perspective of it, I think. Oh, am I cutting out? Shit.
No, I heard you. I was just
Okay.
thinking,
You just went silent for. I was like,
yeah, I was reading my notes.
This happens.
I feel like that chapter also had some Fullbring interactions, like with the other Fullbringers, but I didn't write down any specifics, so I have since forgotten exactly.
One of the only things I wrote about the Fullbringers is Grim getting character progression from his arc in a Ronkar. Pog. I don't. I'm trying because this is near the beginning of the novel. I'm trying to remember exactly what I wish I was specific on exactly what I was pointing to. I would imagine it's the sequence. What sequence am I fucking alluding to here? I'm gonna look at it real fast while you're scouring your notes and coming up with something because now I'm curious as to what I meant by that.
With Grimjo? Are you talking about him as the king? I am the king.
Yeah, probably.
So I said
Yeah.
full. I thought I said Fullbringer. Maybe I did say. I accidentally say Arnkar. Um,
Yeah, I think you did. I just
ignored me completely. No.
ignored you completely. Yeah, exactly. That's actually exactly what I did. Shit, man.
I was so
Why do I do
confused
this?
'cause you're just
Okay,
like-
I don't do this. I don't do this for any of my other notes, by the way. So guys, bear with me. Every other note is very very like specific. This one, I don't know why I wasn't specific, but now I'm forgetting what I mean by this. Shit. And my thing is not loading, so I.
Unfortunate.
All the
Yeah, I
words
don't know
are
why,
jumbled.
but during chapter 23, before the explanation that Tokinada was doing, he had all of Ginjo's allies killed. I just have the note. Fullbringer powers are fucking insane, dude. Like I had that note, but I don't know why I wrote that specifically because that was after I talked about the Aura Kyoko Suigetsu interaction that I recounted. Because that I wrote down, so that I could remember, but I don't remember why else I had that the powers were insane. But I don't know. It was just it was a really wild chapter to read because like that's chapter specifically I felt had all those interactions in one chapter. So I just read it and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, like my first note was quoting Tokinada in the beginning, saying "I am the clouds," but I guess what I was referring to there is the fact that Tokinada views Tsuneyashiro as like the cloud. Like he being a Tsuneyashiro is by his very nature, in his essence, he's a cloud because he's a part of that lineage. And the clouds are representative of like Kakyo and Tosen wanting to see a world that is not built atop sin, kind of thing.
Right.
But
they want to see
that
the
sin
light,
is
the
rooted
goodness,
in the
but the clouds are obscuring it. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as the Soul Society in its current form exists, those clouds will remain, and the origin of those clouds is the Tsuneyashiros, and Tokinada is a part of them. So it's ironic that she married someone like Tokinada. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, and in my note I wrote, I am the clouds, the stars are trash, which I don't think that's how he worded it, but that's what I got out of what he was talking about, because it's like, he knows the truth, right? Like, he knows what's being hidden by like, because he, as Tsuneshiro, is obfuscating history, right? Like, he's hiding the bad part, like, these things, aspects of the world, and, like, if there's like, because ultimately, they kind of leave it on the note of, we need to keep things the same. But like obviously Hisagi is eventually like he told Kyoraku, it was like, if you are not cool with this information going out, kill me right now, because he isn't going to drop it immediately, but he's going to research into it, try and find the truth, and eventually reveal all of this information. And of course, I forget if they brought it up in novel 2, but I was also thinking about how, or if it was just early in this novel, but they brought up the idea of like the world of the living knowing about the afterlife being a bad idea, because like if they know that they're just like their consciousness is going to be perfectly transported to like Rukongai or somewhere, then they're going to like value their lives in the world of the living less, and the risk of the balance being tipped is it's dangerous, right? They don't want that to happen. So it's like there's an example of like, maybe, right now the world isn't ready, but maybe, in the future, like maybe it could change. Like, cause you haven't read Yu Yu Hakusho or watched it, but
No.
one thing Togashi did in both Yu Yu Hakusho and Level E, which is his like alien short manga, is in both of those, that because there's this like secret world in both of them, because Level E is like aliens exist and they interact with humans, but most people don't know about it, and Yu Yu Hakusho is like demons exist and they interact with humans, but most people don't know about it. And both of those settings end off with those worlds sort of like combining and becoming aware of each other, and sort of like having a unity between them. So it's like I just sort of took that and was like, oh, I wonder if like there's a hypothetical future for Bleach where everyone's aware of the whole cosmology, and that's just a daily part of life, right? Like it's just interesting to think about. But obviously, it's like I feel like it'd be so radically different. It's hard to imagine.
People like the whole. I would imagine the most problematic aspect of that would be the concept of death becoming less impactful to people, because they would know assuredly, like, oh, I'm going to a mostly peaceful kind of place, like. I am going there, so.
But of course, they also bring up, it's like, well, now how hell becomes this concrete concept.
Oh, sure. Like, I almost forgot about hell, and we're literally going to read that.
I skimmed through that chapter like twice to check 2 things, and I still haven't fully reread it yet.
Yeah.
But it's I have a lot of the pictures in my head. It's like, oh boy, that's next time. I'll go over the reading list before at the end of this episode to so that everyone knows what we're talking about next time. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. So but yeah, just like yeah, what a lot of the things that adds to the setting are really cool, and which I guess to go into the final thing, unless you have more to say on that,
No,
or
not
just
really.
okay. So what?
I know what I found what I was looking at. It's not really much of anything. It's just that he's explicitly thinking, Hikone is referring to itself as, or themselves as like, they're going to be the new king. And Grimjow takes offense to that specifically because of the king being above all, especially given that he scorns himself of the past who cowered to Aizen's power, right? So now to him it seems here, oh, this is my chance to sort of not necessarily amend those actions of the past, or inaction rather, but now that he's different, to act upon that overwhelming power in front of him for someone new saying they're going to be king, right? And I do like the additional nuance put on, because my first inclination was to think, well, what about Hallibell, dude? Well, that's amended, because it's explained that Hallibell never declared herself the actual. She's looked upon as essentially the new king, but she's
Yes.
never once declared herself as the actual king of Hueco
Because Grimjaw would
So
fucking try to kill her, and she's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
and
don't
she
want to
doesn't
deal
want
with
that in
that.
turn. Hallibell is a chill motherfucker, basically, and that's epic. So, yeah, it's all this. I think the reason I didn't write anything here is because it's very explicit, right? It
Yes.
tells you this is like Grimjow's growth. Is that like he's not going to do the same thing in the past he did while in Hueco Mundo under Aizen. So, yeah.
But yeah, I guess the big thing we learned about the setting is the world before the Soul Reapers, basically before Soul Society. But when the world and we find we find out that Yuabaha wasn't trying to change the world; he was trying to revert the world. He was trying to bring it back to what it used to be. Because in this world where there was no life and death, we find out that the Rayo just came into existence and was this like very important figure, and then the 5 clans unified to seal away the Rayo and
Dude, I have
rip
some
it apart.
cool ass shit.
Yeah,
I already
no.
spoiled a little bit of it for Radman. Like I was too excited last night. I sent him some shit that I had, but he was eating it up, to say the least. So I think I was spitting, and now after actually concluding it, like literally probably an hour ago now, I was definitely spitting. So I can't wait to get to that.
I mean, you could talk, or is it something like character related, or?
Well, it is. It is character related. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I thought you because just some thoughts on the actual backstory itself is that the Sunashiros was the one who like the Sunashiros are the reason we have all these different parts of the Rayo scattered about. Like the Sunashiros are sort of like resulted in the Fullbringers and Gerard and Peridna and Mimihagi, right? I guess it's interesting that the Sunashiros were driven by fear, but Tokinada is a man without fear, as they established. Like that's sort of almost why like you could say Hikone and Tokinada are thematically like enemies is because they don't know fear. Where Hisagi, of course, is their biggest parallel because he does know fear, a lot of fear, in fact. And then, of course, just I guess it was interesting just learning about because the unnamed. There was one clan that didn't get a name that we don't know about that apparently wanted hell closed. That's why they took part in the Rayo's scheme, because they wanted the area that would eventually become hell to be like sealed off. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if we're gonna get a name. I wonder if we already know characters in that clan. Because it's like they've been very because when they had the meeting, they even had the rule of they can't bring all the heads together just in case they all get fucking assassinated. So we only saw Yoriichi, Byakuya, and Tokinada. So it's like they're being kind of cagey with this mysterious clan that's connected to hell. But then the Kyokuchiki Kuchiki energy is like they wanted order to the world, and it's like, oh, that checks out. What was Byakuya doing in Soul Society? He was maintaining order, right? And then the Shihonin was interesting because they just wanted change. So you have like a law, like, or progress and stagnance there in a sense.
Yeah.
With,
Yeah.
well,
I
actually,
love that you.
but still,
No,
or,
keep going.
go
Sorry.
ahead. Go. I was interested because their interests were aligned, but it's like the Kuchikis wanted order, but I guess they saw the world of like no life and no death as a kind of chaos, and it's
Yeah.
like by bringing more chaos into it that was an order that they sought, which I thought like maybe I don't know, that it's just it's interesting because it feels kind of a little contradictory. But yet, like as we see, like it's not like no order exists in the world. That's what the Soul Reapers do.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I thought it was interesting that you mentioned, they contrast each other, Hisagi and Tokinada, because of the lack of fear. I actually, relevant to the lore of the world, I have a portion of my notes talking about what I believe to be Tokinada's fear. So that is interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just going off because I just remembered the text stated that at least in that moment, like fighting them, he wasn't afraid of dying. I guess.
Yeah.
Or that's what they read out of him. So I just took that and accepted that. But
yeah, but I don't think I want to talk, because I do have some notes pertaining to before we get these revelations. And this is where
we don't have to go in chronological order. So
okay, cool, yeah. It makes more sense if it makes more sense if I say this now, because saying this later is it's just not gonna it's not gonna flow properly. Trust me. So way back when I was reading the initial stuff in the novel, I wrote, love that Hisagi, Ora, and Hikone all parallel, and then they each have someone who shaped their entire world, and they still to this day live in. I wonder if Hisagi will divert slightly from Tosin and walk his own novel path toward the end of this. Maybe it has something to do with his Zanpakuto's words about it needing blood. Dude, I was already like cooking in my head. The gears were fucking turning. I'm looking back on this now. I was like, man, I was spitting. I knew what was going to go on, and that's because this is exactly where it leads. Because that awakening of the bankai is very, very pivotal in all this. Mm-hmm. But yeah. And then I also put here, I think this is a really cool observation, is the Suniyashiro Zanpakuto that Tokinada uses seems made for him. It's a weapon where he can make a complete mockery of the 13 court guard squads by effortlessly using their abilities. I think that's sick as shit.
Well, and it's interesting because usually the Zanpakutos are literally made for their user, but Tokinada is actually an exception, which I guess I don't know, I guess like maybe it's getting to your idea of like what he actually fears, because he is the sort of quintessential Sunashiro. Like, he represents everything he sees as wrong in the world, and I guess or everything that is wrong with like I talked about in the first reading of this sort of world, and the nobility and stuff. And so it's just interesting that the sword that they just had is also just like perfect for him, because he was able to use it so well. And it's like he's just, because the way he's sort of this, like, he fights for his own enjoyment, like that kind of character, like Kenpachi or Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter. I think I made this comparison back in the Bleach discussion of just like the chaos factor, where it's like they're just good for stories because they can sort of like, they want what's the most interesting, so they literally enable that in the story by existing, right? So Tokinada is like perfect in that way as the main antagonist of the novel, because it's like he literally he could probably, with the amount of power he has, just like end the fighting, but he doesn't want to do that because that's boring, right? And of course his end is very fitting as well, because he laughs about it, but he dies because literally just nobody kills him, and it's deliberately very anticlimactic and very perfect. So
but I think there's so many layers beyond that, and I'll get into that later. But I wrote something funny here. So Tokinada offhandedly says to Yoruichi, in his typical fucking "I'm gonna rape your mind" fashion, he mentions, "Oh, maybe I'll take Kisuke Urohara's form to," and then he's cut off. Was he gonna say to fuck her, bro? Was he gonna say that? Because that's probably what they'd be doing, okay? Especially at the end of this, we see the intimacy there more than we ever have before. Her hopping on his shoulder, giving him some lip, No, they 100% be fucking. I think it's more clear than ever before. Like I think that's volume 3 cemented it for sure. But yeah, just something funny I put. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the stuff that you were just talking about earlier with the super fucking cool revelation on the world. What the first thing I wrote on that is, so Yuha was trying to bring the world back to its original form before the five nobles created the three realms from the Soul King. Ichibei says, eventually, the Hollows would have eaten all Kompaku until everything was condensed into one giant Minos. This is exactly like Yuha taking in all the Quincy's. Did perhaps Yuha plan to take the old world that he would return life to and bring it to its logical conclusion within himself? That was kind of like my reasoning. Because that's exactly what Yuha was already doing. Yeah.
Right. Well, because like we talked about, where it's like, he sacrifices the other Quincy's because, like, if he die, like, he's taken all these sacrifices into himself and, like, what he was given as a baby, right? Like, they even talk about his potential origins as a son or a descendant of the original Reo and or some kind of spawn, basically. But yeah, like the way people gave him as a child life and died for him, like, if he dies, all that's lost. So yeah, that makes sense. He preserves the world by bringing it all to himself. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, because that's literally, dude, as soon as I read, like, oh, it was all leading to that point into one giant Minos, I was like, bro, that's like, that. I immediately thought, that's just Yuha I was like, wait, what? Maybe that was his plan. Fuck. But, okay, so now getting to the how I think this connects to Tokinada is, in a twisted way, Tokinada is carrying out the will of the Suniyashiro. The Suniyashiro head that started the new world did so out of fear, and that fear led him to do ruthless acts to make everything exactly as he wanted. In a funny sense, he feared the own world he created, since the new world was born from the Soul King. He feared it so much that he disallowed it from making any changes itself. Tokinada fears being below the clouds of a world created by a clan who feared anything different. In another funny way, he's similar to Tosin in that fashion. They both feared assimilating into a system built atop sins and deceit. Where for Tosin, it was driven by a sense of justice, for Tokinada, it's the opposite. The Suniyashiro head concealed his ruthlessness with a system he called justice, and Tokinada merely wants to part those deceptive clouds and show the reality of his own ruthlessness. He wants to transparently sit atop it all so everyone can see his smile, all within a new world that will be far more entertaining for Tokinada. And if it's more entertaining for him, that obviously means that it will be much worse for everyone else. So basically, I think his fear is basically not or being below the clouds of another Suniyashiro's creation and not being himself the clouds, right? That is his goal, is to loom above everyone with his smiling, callous face, right? And in order to do that, he's got to wipe the slate clean. And he's got to show that transparent malice that's been hidden away. And I get more into this by his end. He actually is the one to wash away the sins at the end of the story. It's so fucking... Tokinada is so fucking cool in his conceptualization. It's crazy. But I'll get to more of that later, because that's in the ending. Or I could get to it now if I wanted to just scroll down, since we're already talking about him.
Go for it, because, I'm trying to think if I have anything to say about Tokinada's ending.
I'll scroll down.
I just have a comparison between him and Aizen and Yuabaha. Since Yuabaha wanted to revert the world to its original form, Aizen wanted to like resolve the sin and then make a better world. Tokinada he wanted to make the world worse and like let it revolve and around his own sin in a sense.
I was like, so yeah, you've come to pretty much the same conclusion as me in terms of like the world Tokinada wanted to look down on. Yeah.
Yes.
That's not it. God, I actually wrote a lot. Holy shit. No, you can tell I was fucking feeling this volume. I wrote so much today. Holy shit. That's why it took me so long. Jesus Christ. Okay, shit. Okay, yeah. I think this might be it. I think Tokinada realizes at his end that his death is the last thing necessary for a new world to come into being. Not one born from a literal change in the fabric of existence, but one from the people who inhabit it. The karma the Suniyashiros accumulated spawned as Tokinada, and Tokinada, being more vile than it all, dies with that sinful clan he annihilated, creating a clean slate for the nobility to have reform. In effect, he becomes the justice that ends a long era of sin. That's why he shouts out at Kyoraku and the rest, saying that they couldn't defeat him, because, similar to Aizen, this will in fact create a different soul society thanks to his influence. Like it's so fucking cool. Like when you put it that way, that is exactly what Tokinada did. He is the one who eliminated the Suniyashiro. He is the one who illuminated their sins. And he is the one now that they're gone, the biggest influencers of keeping that past locked away. Now they're all gone thanks to him, and he's gone too. Well, now the Soul Society can truly change from within. And if it weren't for Tokinada doing all this bullshit, that wouldn't be possible. So it's crazy.
No, yeah, like it kind of also feeds into Aizen's ideals where it's like conflict leads to, you know, becoming stronger, right? So it's like, yeah, it's not what Tokinada, like that's why Aizen wins in the end and Tokinada doesn't, right? Because like Tokinada doesn't care for that, like he just wants his own entertainment, so you know he allows for this change that to him is negative, where to Aizen, like, and even though he lost, like the conflict in itself leads to a better result, right? So
and a part of it, I think, even still, him laughing, I think a part of it is a little bit of it's a somber victory for him too, just because for him, I think getting murdered in that fashion, I don't think he lamented it at all. I think the laugh was genuine. He loved the fact that the final person to kill him was ironically someone inconsequential, and that's the kind of stuff he reveled in. It was entertainment.
So all right, so I need to talk about the artwork, because you got the artwork, right, of his death.
Yeah.
So I will say he doesn't seem to be smiling, but my brain's also broken right now. Because I just put out a video called "The Best Joe References," which is in reference to a very famous series called Ashita no Joe. And what's notable about that series is that so I guess I'm going to kind of lightly spoil it. It's kind of not even a spoiler because everyone's seen this image in a sense. You've watched Gurren Lagann. You've seen this. You've seen a reference to this exact same ending of Ashita no Joe, where basically Joe boxes in his last match, and his goal there isn't necessarily to win. It's he has a line to a character earlier where he says he wants to burn to white hot ashes. He wants to do his best as a boxer and reach his end, like as a boxer, like, and so it's often interpreted that he dies. But it's deliberately vague. I do think that he's at least died as a boxer, like that's his last match, and he's done in the ring. Basically, I don't personally believe he literally dies, but he's sitting in the boxing ring corner after the end of the match, and he's like slumped over, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's looking towards the left of the page, which in manga reading direction, like the series is called Tomorrow's Joe. Ashita no Joe, it means tomorrow's Joe. So it's like he's looking towards tomorrow, like that, like he found his tomorrow basically. So Tokinada being slumped over, looking to the left is kind of like that. Like I literally just did a video talking about like references to the series in general, which included a lot to that image. Gintama's referenced it. Fucking what's some other things that you've gone through that have referenced it? I mentioned Gurren Lagann. Like, yeah, it's a very common image to reference.
Interesting. I didn't know about this.
So I was so it's like so thinking about like it like that, because if Tokinada burnt out and he did was satisfied with that. Now I'm not sure, like, at least just looking at the image, I'm not just I was almost gonna should have tweeted about it where I'm just like balding because it's like, is my brain broken? Is this a Joe reference? Because it has this let me find I deleted that folder. Fuck.
I literally just read it, so I still have the image painted in my mind.
No, I was looking for the one from Joe is what. Gotcha, I should have it in my recycle bin. Joe, yes, I do. Restore that, and then because I have the manga page, I'll show you. There it is. Okay, I'm gonna send it to you right now. So you might recognize this from Gurren Lagann episode 8. Slumped over with a smile on his face, pure white. Because his hair is usually black. It is not usually white. So that's again the reference of burnt to hot white ashes. So again, like having Tokinada also slumped over and looking in the after having just done this video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, but even before that, you say burned to white hot ashes. He was moving about, fucking immersed in his entertainment, even as his blood was gushing out of him. He was getting stabbed. Like he burned out. Yeah, he burned out in a similar fashion.
Like he led to the world's tomorrow, like you were just saying. Like he opened the clouds, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So
Wait, hold up.
This is
this is one of your Joe references right here.
I was being like uncertain because again, it was just that level of like, am I just mind fucked because I just did a video about this and I'm just seeing it everywhere now? But it's like, no, I think that's what it's doing. It's a Joe reference. I found another one literally right after I finished my fucking video about this exact same thing.
It might not even be. Well, I mean, I guess Ashton and Joe. I've heard it enough to know it is, very famous.
It's probably one of the most famous and influential works in anime and manga. Yeah, it gets. I can probably think of more Ashton and Joe references off the top of my head than I can Dragon Ball references, and people usually think about Dragon Ball as the most referenced thing. It's a big deal. It's also a very good series if you ever want to check it out. But it's anime or manga, they're both really good.
Gotcha.
But anyway, so I just wanted to, because again, it's just relevant.
And it's shorter than Ippo. It's shorter than Ippo. So.
It is. But yeah. Anyway,
okay.
You'll probably like it. I think it's just a very well written and good series and interesting.
I'll read it when I get through my hundreds of other stories on the list. I got you. Give me at least 10 years, but I got you.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, that's some of the stuff I had to say about Tokinada. Now backing up to a lot more notes.
Well, there's some other rogues we can talk about in the gallery, so to speak. Because Tokinada is really good, but Hikone and Ara, of course, have some really good stuff too. Like Ara finding her attachment. It was as a mother she came to like really legitimately care for Hikone and literally give her life to them. That was really cool. And that was the fucking Fullbringer powers being insane. The ways that Yukio was communicating with Urahara and Ara.
Oh, bro, that was like...
Tokinada did not notice with like... What?
Bro, I'm going to be real with you. That got way too autistic for me. I had to skim that shit. I was like, bro, this is way too much. I get it. They're communicating with each other. I don't care. I was like, what?
I think it's like Yukio was using his powers to make like very almost unnoticeable like symbols that Urahara recognized, and then was communicating back by using, it's like an advanced form of Morse code. Because if they used just Morse code, Tokinada would have fucking seen it. So they had to use like some interdimensional Morse code. I was like, Jesus. Okay, yeah, these guys are crazy. I get you. Yeah, and Urahara was also communicating with the Fullbringer because like there was the chapter ended where Tokinada, Tsukishima stabbed his like allies with his sword, and I'm like, what the little fuck are you doing? And it's like, oh no, Ara, that's
how he communicated with them.
Yes, exactly. So it's I remembered what my note was. That's why I said Fullbringer powers are fucking insane, dude, because the level of interactions there was just like absolutely wild.
Not just that, but like the fucking, I didn't expect so much Ginjo glaze. Like how people were saying like he was unleashing an attack that like rivaled fucking Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho, and that like, well, obviously we've been seeing before even Volume 3 that if not Hikone or Ichigo, the other best candidate would be Ginjo. So Ginjo is getting a lot of good glaze. It's good to see.
Because I feel like he's one of the because again, think of it in the power scaling sense, he gets one fight. He fights Ichigo. Ichigo, and he gets squashed, right? Like it's so that doesn't actually tell us about anything about how strong he is because it's fucking Ichigo, one of the little strongest characters in the series, right?
Yeah, and also I mean there's a point to be made about their mentality in the fight too. Like
sure.
Ichigo was at his strongest because all of his comrades were at his back, whereas Ginjo had lost everything and so it's
not the best display of Ginjo's like capabilities, right? Where in this case it's like he's still able to fight on like par with these guys, like these monsters, right? Like fucking Ara, Tokinada, and Hikone are all just like Hikone spends like so much of the novel fighting fucking Kenpachi toe to toe, right? Like
but like the craziest part about that is like Hikone is built up so much, and you learn. When Hikone comes in after Tokinada gives his order, you learn, okay, fucking Kenpachi hasn't even released his Shikai yet. He's still got his fucking... It's like, bro, what? What? Kenpachi is fucking crazy.
like again, it just goes into what I was saying with his last like fight against Gerard, where it's just like his strength is just fucking unimaginable. His potential, like the fact that he still hasn't reached his potential yet, and this is how strong he is. It's just like he literally beyond imagination, right? Like and
Yeah.
the little tidbit of Hikone like really enjoying their fight with Kenpachi, and it's like, oh, of course Hikone feels that way. Their brain is Gremmy, who also like they even that was another instance.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
they mentioned that because I think the Lil Toto and the Quincy's were mentioning how it's like, oh yeah, didn't Gremmy have that too when he was fighting Kenpachi?
Yeah,
And,
I should have. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't.
You probably
I was probably so wrapped up in like how cool the shit going on was that I just kind of glanced over it. And yeah, I think if I was reading more, I think because really during a lot of this reading, I was reading so fucking fast. I was reading so fast and taking so many notes. Yeah, so that's probably what happened there. If I was reading slower, I probably would have, because it literally spells it out like you just said, but I didn't catch it somehow. So yeah, thanks.
Or at least it calls attention. Oh no, I guess it spells it out.
It kind of spells it out.
Yeah.
As much as possible that explicitly
that was one of those moments where I wrote it down and then they talk, because I was like, oh yeah, Gremmy did that too, and then they mentioned it.
It's happened so much in these novels, bro.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's happened so much. I got a little bit more to say on the Soul Society history. This is some really cool shit I wrote. This is one of the other things I also sent to Radman that he enjoyed as well. I put, perhaps the right arm of the Rayo represents the duty of the Rayo. It is a part of him that agrees with his position for it being necessary to keep a better world in balance. And if that's the case, perhaps the left arm represents the pain of his position that sways him. He wants to break free, but knows that if he does, the world he protects will crumble. One of Pernida's abilities even mimics the first sin of the Suniyashiro family. It takes control of the body and does what it wishes with it, just like what was done to the Rayo. Now, looking back at its fight with Mayuri, that battle is completely recontextualized for me. If Pernida is representative of the evolutionary process brought from the selfish desire for the Rayo to break free from his state, then Mayuri is the representation of the type of individual evolutionary process that is made possible from the current world. As is now revealed, the end result of the old world was for everything to eventually become one, like a Minos. And this is mirrored in how Pernida evolves. It takes in everything for itself. But we see on Mayuri's side that his evolution is the opposite. It is all external and actualized through the one heart he shares, Nemu. We get the literal thematic sneak peek to the finale of Ichigo and Company versus Yuhabaha from Mayuri's fucking fight. Jesus. And of course, more obviously, the nail in the coffin to this is that the representation of the Rayo's adherence to his duty, the right arm, becomes the thing that keeps the world from being destroyed before it's obviously replaced by Yuhabaha. But yeah, I just completely, because I then thought of like the right and left arm, what they represented, and why the Mimihagi would be on the Quincy side, and then I thought of the fight, and I was like, oh my god, holy shit, I'm getting so much more even out of this, 1,000-year Blood War fight now too.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, because it's like I mean, we do get one scene of Kurasuchi being fucking awesome, but it really doesn't but it's interesting that because I didn't think about it like that. But no, that does make his fight better. But it's like it doesn't even have anything to do with Kurasuchi specifically anyway. So
the fact that this novel can make me appreciate his character more is great. Even though I already fucking love that fight, it's part of the reason why that's my favorite stretch of Bleach, the ending stuff in 1,000-Year Blood War. But I also added to this. I said, wait a sec. If the Rayo called Ichigo there back in 1,000-Year Blood War when they come up onto him and Yuhabaha about to slay him, then the Rayo probably knew Ichigo would kill him. In which case, he did want to pass on and found it as the perfect opportunity, as he probably knew that not only could Ukitake with the right arm prevent utter collapse, but that it might be time to start a new and better world through Ichigo. So he allows the new god to slay him in order to take over, but obviously that's not how it went down. But I just thought that was an interesting thought, because we know the Rayo did call them there. That is explicitly stated.
Well, that was an interesting little tidbit they offered, where it's like... the Rayo intentionally did not resist being ripped apart by the 5 clans, which imply, I think they suggest that because he can see the future, he might have seen the future that would have resulted from that and preferred that. Like he like they think that he might have accepted it basically. Or that's a potential interpretation, and also one that paints the five clans in a better light. So there's definitely like, you know, Hisagi's got a fucking job to do, fucking looking into this shit. So,
And also, I think this is really cool contextualization or further contextualization for the Shiba family. That's even going more off of what we got in Volume 1. Is that because before I was thinking it was a little overkill. The Shibas got fully disgraced because of two people, despite generations of nobility. But the Suniyashiros were probably always looking for an excuse to expunge them from the start, right? Because of their descent and wanting to like actually talk to the Reo and not wanting to forcibly make him do these things.
Because I didn't mention it before, but at my note, because the reason the Shivas took part in the Reo stuff was they wanted to purify hollows rather than destroy them, because apparently the norm back then was the Quincy way of destroying hollows, which of course you don't need to worry about the imbalance of the world if the whole world is just one thing anyway. But the Shivas wanted, they didn't want souls to be destroyed.
They wanted to essentially find a way to perform Konso before it was actually it was actually mechanically viable for the world. Like
which is interesting, they were thinking, because you could argue that is probably one of the most important aspects of Soul Reapers. So in a way, Shibas are ideologically the ancestors of the Soul Reapers in a way. Like they're like the most important, even though nowadays they're not even one of the families, which is a little ironic, I suppose.
That's it is really, really cool. And obviously this adds so much to Ichigo's lineage, why he is the way he is, his constitution, and why he was another reason he was going to be the candidate for the next Soul King. So when we cut over to Ichibei during these explanations, one of the things Ichibei says is, but seeing as how Ichigo did not become Soul King, perhaps the world still needs him in some way. I just wrote in all caps, Hell Archetype?
Please, oh God, give it to me.
This is Hell Archetype? I think this is Hell Archetype.
Let me come.
Please. How many years has it been?
Oh my God. It's been only like 3.
I guarantee you, I'm calling this now. Core 4, at the final episode, that's when the announcement is coming. I can feel it in my bones. At the end of Core 4, Taite Kubo will come out and be like, "Hey guys, there's more Bleach coming."
Give me Bleach. Well, considering what he's working closely with, it would be interesting to see that Bleach be purely continued in anime format. Like, not that I'd be against a manga being released, but just like, you know, I wonder if that's part of the plan, because like Kubo can't draw his ideas anymore. Like I don't imagine, like, he's probably got like even if it's like 10 volumes worth of ideas, the idea of sitting down and drawing, like he's drawn like what one shot of Burn the Witch. Hold on, I have it dated too. He drew the one shot of Burn the Witch in 2018. He drew the one volume of manga in 2020, and then he did the Hell one shot in 2021. And he's basically been working on the 1,000 Year Blood War since then. So it's like, so I do wonder, it's like, because it's like, what has he got cooking with Burn the Witch? You know, that's a whole other thing.
I know. I mean, I don't even know anything about it, but all I know is like it's basically the soul reaping side of the West or whatever.
Exactly.
In England.
Soul Society West Branch, exactly.
Soul Society West Branch, yeah. So it's that's just a whole new bag of worms. Like, it would make so much sense if they dedicated a lot of this new. I don't know if you know about it, but Core 3 and 4 are now going to be developed by a new branch in the Piero studio. It's like their cinema branch, where it's like their dedication is to make like movie grade quality episodes, and they're dedicating that to Core 3 and Core 4. That's why it's taken longer for Core 3.
I hear because there's a new trailer that dropped, but I haven't seen it yet for Core
3.
3.
I haven't. I literally got sent that to someone in my Discord, but I knew I was going right in here, so I had to wait on that. But I'm going to be watching it literally right after I get out of here.
Well, how about we just watch it together and live react to it on recording after all this?
I'm down. I'm fucking down.
I just had that because Shades has done that in the. I've been on Piss Parts, and we literally just watched the whole episode of One Piece, and he cut it up our interesting reactions to it. So we can do that for the little trailer and be like, or just talk about it a little bit, just to hype up. I don't know. I just thought about it because I haven't seen it either. You haven't seen it. Let's get a reaction video going. We'll talk more about Can't Fear Your Own World. I did just a little one. I like the joke because I think Tokinada found out of, because I guess he was wondering, like, he saw Nella like Nell, and like, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you like? Or I think, and he just had the comment of like, oh, so Ichigo's a womanizer because like he has all these
Oh
other
yeah,
girls interested in him, and
yeah, yeah.
I just thought that was funny because like I never thought of it like that, even knowing, but it's like, oh, I can see why he'd think that.
Nell definitely
Um,
has an infatuation with Ichigo though, because
oh, of
even at the
course.
end with Aura, she's like, "Oh, I can't wait to like share this with Ichigo. Oh my god, yeah, wait till you meet Ichigo." It's like, yeah, she really loves Ichigo. How cute. Unfortunate that he's got a wife already. So.
And also, just a little note about Holabel is because, I was reading the Espadas aspects and as them being afraid of what they represent, basically, because again, that ties them to Aizen and offers a contrast because, like, Aizen fears these things, so he chooses Arrancar that represent these fears, but also they match him in that they fear those things. But I was just noticing that there's also a line about how Holabel she believes turning others into sacrifices is necessary to live, which is kind of true. Like we have to eat, if not animals, which is common, and especially in Hueco Mundo, we still eat life of some sort. Like we can't subsist on something that hasn't been alive, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess organic food is a thing, but I actually haven't thought about that too hard. Or not inorganic, or I guess artificial, like synthesized food. I haven't looked into that, so I don't really, sorry, irrelevant. But I was just thinking about how it's like, oh, how, because like, I just remember like talking to someone and just thinking about like how it's like the Arrancar who survive are the ones who at some level like overcome those fears, right? Like Holabel is more accepting of sacrifice, and like Grimjo, he's not afraid of destruction anymore, right? Like he's not,
Yeah.
yeah, like so.
And then, well, literally, what I just said, that the explicit growth at more like the beginning section of this novel is him like looking down a new king, and despite that overwhelming power, he's saying, "Not this time." I'm not gonna walk. I'm not gonna walk away because of my fear. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about Shinji's bankai, but you already knew about it, so I guess it's not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we know. I mean, I did ask you about it earlier. You said it was really cool. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, sorry.
there's
Yeah.
not. I don't think there's too much to say about it.
No, I mean it's perfect because it's like, oh, he inverts like trust and betrayal, basically, right? Like
Yeah,
he,
yeah. Yeah, which is it is that is a cool observation. I hadn't actually thought of that, but yeah, no, it is very much a depiction of his arc. But that is bankai in general, right? It's a depiction of what they are, what they experience, right? Because
yeah,
what you
well,
experience is
like
what you are.
the line he has about how it's like his like the fact that his Shikai is better against single opponents and his bankai is better against mooks and grunts. So it's like, oh, even my fucking sword is contrary, right? Because like his whole ability is about like inversing things and being contrarian, right? So so it's like even his sword is an inverse because normally, yeah, you'd think like. Yeah, so like, the Shikai is the basic ability that's you want to more commonly use, and the Bankai is the one that you want to like save for the stronger foes. But he ends up only using the Shikai in the series because it's just the better thing to do in all of his fights, right? So, how do they actually do it in the anime? Like, because do they just have him fight a similar scene where he's just fighting a bunch of Quincy grunts and he uses his Bankai?
It's just unfortunate because the same thing happens to him, or ends up happening to him right after. He uses it's just an additional scene before he gets BTFO'd by Bambietta. So the same thing happens. Bambietta just like explodes him and he like gets KO'd.
Okay.
But in the anime, it's right before that. There's some Quincy fodder and he uses it.
Okay.
And he defeats the Quincy fodder, but he just randomly uses his Bankai to do it. And obviously, he's captain class. He doesn't need to do that. I guess take care of him quickly, right? Whatever. Mm-hmm. But the fact that like he uses that, it's like, oh my god, Shinji, you defeated some Quincy fodder. Good shit, man. And then immediately have Bambietta come in and go, hey, and then just KO him is like, okay, Shinji, that's kind of pathetic, bro.
So basically, the novel.
It's like, why'd they have to do this to my man? Like, this is like such a. It's so much cooler to have his first use of his Bankai be in Can't Fear Your Own World, where it's actually super useful and super cool, and it's like, it makes him look really good. It's like, I don't know. Now I hate the fucking Bankai usage in the anime even more.
Unfortunate.
Because of how inconsequential it is. I don't know. It's just it is unfortunate. It's definitely their worst edition.
Okay.
It probably will be their worst edition in the anime. If there's anything worse, I'd be shocked. But okay, I do want to mention in the flashback sequence, really fucking sick flashback sequence of Hisagi and Tosin. Tosin says, If a time comes when I learn about those things and see only hope and pleasure in the remade world, and I forget my fear, at that time perhaps I will stop being a warrior. And I write, this is exactly what happens in Tosen's end. The sight he gains from his resurrection elates him to the point that his fear is shaken off, which allows Hisagi to catch him off guard. Ironic, because the one he foretold this scenario to would be the one to later exploit it. I thought that was really fucking cool.
Well, and we
Because
also
I immediately related it to his end and in the Arrancar arc. But yeah.
And yeah, we also get the also flashback with Aizen and Tosen talking. Though that one I didn't get, like, I mean, Tosen, it was just really driving home their last scene together where
I got a lot. I got a lot from that actually.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, I got something, but it wasn't related to Tosen. What did you get out of it?
I got some stuff from both Aizen and Tosen.
Okay,
so I will scroll down.
Well, I'll show the Aizen one first because he basically, so he gives a line. I sent it to Radman because I was like, he says, I don't mind that either. Knowing one's own weakness is the foundation of climbing higher. Since evolution occasionally requires fear, and I just read that and I was like, oh, that's literally
Aizen.
The video I'm going to make. That's the
Rich coming from you, Aizen.
That's the central thesis of my video, because he's just except for the part that he's wrong about, which is that, like, because really what he should be saying that would be true in the context of Bleach is understanding one's own weakness is the foundation of climbing higher, but he says knowing, because, like, that's his fault. He knows his fear, but he doesn't understand it, right? And that's what drives what leads us to his defeat. So I just read that and I was like, oh, cool. There it is, the silver bullet. This is just my video.
There we go. Yeah, nice. So I write, so it was truly his own form of kindness Aizen showed Tosen in his end. He did exactly as the man had asked in the past. However, it's still the case that Aizen only followed the will of his retainer because he didn't share a heart with him. Had he done so, he would have recognized the growth that Tosen experienced at his end and allowed him to look upon the future of the Soul Society, Shuhei Hisagi, the man who would later change not only his own world, but become the key to amending the sins of the past Tosen so loathed, helping foster change in the Soul Society just like Ichigo. In his final moments, Tosen recognized that he should leave the duty of fighting the past to his student that hadn't become wrapped up in malicious vengeance. But Aizen couldn't see any of that. And then I write, further elaborating on this, even Tosen's elaboration of his request is a cope. He says that he must be eliminated if he turns because it would make his path just senseless murder. But this is only a way to allow himself to be blind to the potential mistakes he will make. Regardless of whether he faces them or not, those actions will still be viewed by someone as just or unjust. And little did Tosen know, there was an opinion he held in even higher regard than his own. His student, Hisagi. I thought I came to a beautiful conclusion there. And then just more of Aizen at the end of his final recollection. I think Aizen's final words are very, very telling and interesting. He says, "Wait for when their journey illuminates my own path." And I just wrote, this is just like the courage line all over again. Aizen really is the new Soul Society's biggest fan.
I mean, even the fact that the novel opens with his quote from the end of the series, that is why people have a name for walking the path of fear, right? Where it's just like, let's go!
Yeah.
Because because Camp Fear and World really is just expanding on that core theme of Bleach with fear and courage, right? But through, God, the scene where Hisagi does the no-no thing that nobody should ever do, and he steps in between Hikone and Kapachi's, goes like, I got this.
Oh, I have some stuff on that too, bro. I have some stuff on that too. I think I know why. I think I know what Kenpachi was talking to.
You think the conversation he had with Yachiru?
With Yachiru, yeah. Sorry, I was going blank on her name. Where's my note on that? That's nope. Oh well, first I wrote. First I did write this. Okay, so I said. Perhaps Kenpachi stopped because Yachiru told him Hisagi is right, that Hikone is just like he and Ichigo once were, people who could only use a fragment of their whole power in battle because they didn't yet understand themselves in totality, which is very much true for Hikone. Right. Hikone, as Hisagi would later explain to Hikone is weaker than him even. And I think Yachiru probably told that in a way to Kenpachi that Kenpachi could understand and go, oh, he's just like I used to be. Well, I used to be a scrub, man.
Oh, so Hikone can get stronger then. I might actually have
so
to use my Shikai.
If Hisagi can do what he's about to do, maybe he can get stronger.
Right, and that doesn't happen, but Hisagi does become strong. Like, he gets his bankai, and that could lead to some interesting fights with Kenpachi. So, like, if anything, it's what Kenpachi really wants, right? Like, an enemy he can hit without having to hold back. And, like, oh my god, I didn't even... Because, like, they do bring up that, like, Kenpachi is, like, wants to fight Hisagi now that he has his bankai, right? Like, that's something Kenpachi's interested in, but obviously Hisagi doesn't want to do that, because it's like, he still experiences all the pain of getting hurt. Like, it's still...
he knows they're both just gonna die. Like,
or they'll both be reduced to, like, no spiritual pressure and be on the ground collapsed, right? Like, that's probably, you know, because, so it's literally just, it would be for Kenpachi's fun and Hisagi's suffering. That's literally the only reason to do it.
But another thing is, it wouldn't even end like that, because Kenpachi would learn very quickly it's not fun, because obviously in the arena, Kenpachi would be overwhelming. But obviously he'd be like, oh, it's no fun cutting a guy that just keeps regenerating and can't really fight back efficiently. Okay, well, undo this bankai, bro. I'm done. Like, he would learn very quickly it's no fun in reality. But I did write, I love how Hisagi's moment with Kenpachi is an inverse of Tosen's fight with him. In the Soul Society, Kenpachi shocked Tosen by easily adapting to his bankai and defeating him. Now, the student of Tosen shows how he has surpassed his master in acquiring his own way, and shocks not just Kenpachi, but everyone else, even making him stand down. And from this, Hisagi earns his bankai. I love how it's a complete inverse that the student of Tosen makes in this moment. It's so fucking cool. There's so much symbol. This is why I put in my tweet that I posted right before this, that this is Bleach manga levels of peak, this volume. I understand now because there's so much symbolism rooted in all this shit. It's crazy. I got so much out of this, and there's even more I have to say. So,
yeah. Well, what I was gonna say about this scene is that just like, because Hisagi he knows fear the most out of all the Soul Reapers, right? So, and like there was the line last volume about Urahara saying that, like, that's why he's strong, because he bears fear constantly. That he's like able to be more steady. So, like, that's why he's the one who's able to like because he knows fear the most, he's able to do the scariest thing possible and tell Kenpachi no fighting, bad.
Yeah,
right?
very true. Yeah.
Because
he's been able to internalize it the most, so he can face the worst of it. Yeah.
And he does the thing that, like, he does the impossible, right? Like, when it gets, like, everyone's
when
like,
I was
what
reading
the
this
fuck?
scene, when I was reading that scene, I was like, I knew right away. I was like, this makes no sense right now, but I know by the end of this, it's not only going to make sense, but this is going to be peak fiction shit. I was like on the edge of my fucking seat. I was like, oh my god, what is he doing? What is Blood Waffle about?
I wrote it in all caps. Hisagi, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But no, like I said, before I even thought that, I was like, oh, I know. This is going to be some peak fiction shit we're coming up. There's a reason for this, because there's no way Hisagi's ass would be doing this for no fucking reason. There's no fucking way. Right. So, yeah, and then the explanation, and then all of it is super, like, it was so interpretive. I had to really, like, think about it. I had to go, like, okay, what is Yajiro telling Kenpachi? What is he thinking? Like, maybe that's it. But I'm not even confident on the answer I gave there.
Yeah, no, like, I kind of didn't even try, because I like, it, well, because you know how sometimes in, like, you're watching a movie or something, and they're, like, on the phone, is like, what they did at the beach to their friend with the car, right? Like they're not talking like a real person on the phone. They're talking in a way to exposit dialogue to the audience, right? But that conversation isn't like that. It's like there's an actual conversation in Ryoko Narita's head that Yachiro and Kenpachi had that we are not privy to. And I appreciate that, because
I do. Exactly.
But on the other hand, it's like, I want to know what it is, right? Like, so it's like, you know, I mean, I'm still leaning much more towards the former, but I do have that voice of the latter being like, I want to know, even though I never can.
Also, I want to know Yachiru's new form. I want to see adult Yachiru so bad. I want to see it, bro. I want to see her adult.
She just looks exactly the same.
There's no. I think isn't there like? I feel like there's some material out there that pretty much says like, oh, she's like in a mature form now. That she's like one with Kenpachi.
I've never heard
sure.
that before, so
I hope I am not making that up, but I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. It could be unreliable if I have.
I've never heard it before. I mean, look.
Maybe
I'm thinking
someone in
about
the
Hell
comments
Arc
can
again.
confirm or
I'm thinking
deny.
about Bleach sequel. I'm thinking about all the little things we can learn about, all the stories, all the little details. You know, it's like you
Yeah,
can get
maybe that was in
anything can be
the
possible.
Kubo version of the SBS he does. Maybe someone asked him, and
Oh,
Kubo's like, "Oh yeah, it's similar to I don't know. Yeah, he's got an adult woman with him or something. I don't know.
okay. Um,
I
well,
don't
because
fucking
it
know."
would make
And I
sense in
think it would
that
also
like
make sense too because Yachiru being younger, like back when Kenpachi understood very little of himself and his power, and her being small, and then for him to be able to utilize most of it, and all of it, mostly all of it, I was trying to say,
mm,
and being able to actually directly communicate with her, not as the individual Yashuru, but himself as a Zanpakuto. I think it would also make sense symbolically if she was older as well too.
right,
So
right,
maybe
because
I'm
like with Yachiro being
yeah
his childish self before and now growing up, right? Well, I was also thinking of it in this context. Like I thought about that too, but I also thought about like obviously it's like Unohana, like contextualizing it with Unohana a bit as well. Like I'm just curious, is like will it just be like older Yachiru, or will there be some like signs of Unohana in there as well? Kind of like how Kyoraku has Ohana, who is evocative of like Nano's mom in some way, right? So like I was just thinking about that. Is I wonder, I wonder, I
yeah
wonder.
interesting. I
Um,
wonder.
uh, so
And
um,
I wonder.
so there was also I want you to pronounce the Hikone's sword. I want to hear you try to pronounce it because I'm an asshole. Um,
I would have to get. Can you like type it out or something? Or let me just.
or
Hikone Zanpakuto.
I can probably send it to you. I could.
Ikomiki domoe.
There you go. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Yeah. So well,
Ikomiki domoe. I can't say it fast though. It's impossible for me to
Iko
say it fast.
like you can't say like Iko. Oh fuck! And I fuck it up. I just made myself. Iko
I get fucked. Yeah, I can't
Right.
say. I'm not Japanese enough, man.
I
Ikomiko.
tried. So I don't know.
Fuck.
I tried to learn Japanese years ago, and I forgot a lot, like even a lot of the hiragana and kana. But somehow the pronunciation has stuck with me.
Well,
I
yeah,
noticed I'm much
and it
better at
will
pronouncing
forever
Japanese
because
words without the American accent. Not that I'm
yeah,
perfect. I can
that is
I can
just,
barely pronounce some English correctly sometimes, but
yeah,
I do
but
notice that
well,
with
that's just
yeah,
because Japanese phonetically is like very, very.
easy.
It's
Yeah.
simple. It's easy. And
Yes.
yeah, it's
But
great for that. I love it for that.
it's the hard part isn't learning it. It's unlearning the American. Like a really common one is like I just watched uh, Monogatari, and it focused on Yoshiki, the doll. And like
Mm.
an easy mispronunciation you can have with like the tsu syllable in the middle like that is you pronounce it like yot sugi or something like that, because like that's not how the syllable
Oh
is
yeah,
read. Like that's how you'd
yeah.
read it with an English accent, but that's not quite how it's pronounced. And I probably still mess up like that too sometimes. But it's just an example of like how the syllable or
Yeah.
kurosuchi or kurotsuchi, like that one's a little different. Though.
Yeah,
I
well,
wouldn't
even
say
like
that
more
like that, but,
colloquial terms we have in America, like we say karaoke, right? But that's
yes,
karaoke, right?
right, yes,
Uh,
precisely.
yeah.
Though I guess speaking of language a bit, I actually because how what it. So Urahara has his speech tick where he refers to people presumably by like san, and so in English he'll call them Mr. or Mrs. But then in this novel he talks about hikone, and they decide to so it,
Oh, mix.
yes, I was
I
like
remember that. Yeah, I was like, I was like, whatever, I don't care.
no, it was because it's like just one thing to highlight about in Japanese. Apparently, it's much easier to refer to characters
Oh, it is.
neutrally.
Yeah.
Like
So actually, that is crazy too, because I legit. That's why I skimmed over it so fast. I was like, oh, this is probably one of those cases of that they're them having to find some way to translate it, because in Japanese it's a lot easier to skim over a Mr. or a Mrs. because you can just say. I literally thought of san actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I thought, oh, they probably just referred to Hikone as like Hikone-san. That's probably what it was.
Well, specifically, Urahara's been using the surname, so it's Ubiginu-san, which of course it's gender neutral, but like because thus far, I'd say just by using the singular they, it's like that's fine, that's normal, right? But then in this case, it's like combining Urahara's quirk with like the fact that the English language is largely like gender binary, and so it's just like I just noticed that it's like, oh, I haven't never seen that before, but I don't know what the fuck else they were supposed to do except for have like Urahara break his quirk for this one time, which would also like there's no good way to handle it. Like actually another example I was thinking of is how the Luffy has a masculine suffix that he calls people. He uses the suffix o. So with Trafalgar Law, he calls him Tora o or Tra guy in the English translation a lot of time. But with Yamato, it's
Yeah.
Yama o, And I just thought it was interesting because I was reading Wano, and he calls Trollfall in the official Viz translation. He's calling Law Tra guy, but he's calling Yamato Yamao. And I'm like, well, he's used in Japanese. He's used referring. It would be, but Yama guy is kind of weird to say, and Tra O or Tora O doesn't make sense in English because it's like that's the Japanese pronunciation of Tra. It's Tora basically. So it's like it's just a weird like it's another weird situation. So it's like I understand why they do it differently in English, but like in Japanese they're the same. So weird language things.
It'd be like that sometimes.
But I do like Hikone's resolution, I guess, and the stuff with Ikomiku Tomoe as well, where it's like Tokinada being gone and Hikone having to like contextualize their own worldview without like Tokinada and just having to decide something for themselves. Like I tend to like non-human characters or limited characters like that having to like find their own meaning and value in like living and existence, and Hikono is that, and it's like, yeah, let's fucking go. I love that shit. So just like, oh god, Hisagi's words were so cool. You tweeted
oh
about,
baby, I got so much to say about Hisagi. He is I'll get to what he is, and I think you'll appreciate what I have to say, what I condense him down to being. What were we gonna say?
I was gonna bring up Ikomiku Tomoe again, but
oh well, this is kind of relevant because it's he has a Zanpakuto form.
Yes.
It's interesting because we get into Revelation when Hisagi is talking to his Zanpakuto again after he like quote unquote dies. Mm-hmm. His Zanpakuto literally calls out White and Nozarashi, right? Is
Yes.
Kenpachi's. So all the Zanpakuto just know each other, and like even by name, and I think that makes sense because they all come from the same place. So that makes a little bit of sense that they would just all intuitively know each other. That's interesting because we've never gotten that information before. But yeah, anyway, because like even Hisagi doesn't know. We see there Hisagi's like white. What is white? Obviously, it's Ichigo's, but the Zanpakuto knows it. Mm-hmm. Hisagi doesn't know it, even though the Zanpakuto is a part of Hisagi. But yeah, that's a little bit of the separation because while especially by the end, Hisagi and his Zanpakuto are one. They do fundamentally come from two different places, right? And that is enough distinction for sometimes the Zanpakuto itself is going to know more than him, especially that other Zanpakuto. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool mechanically. But
yeah, what I was going to say about Ikomiku Tomoe real quick was just that like we got the little tidbit of his like backstory with him being what was feared in the old world. Now that I think about it, of like a all-consuming Menos basically that just consumes and consumes until it gets like so large that it's like they literally couldn't even kill it because doing so, like purifying it, would upset the balance of the world. Right?
Yeah.
And then the detail about Ichibei changing his name was neat, and like the fact that I'm wondering how it worked in Japanese. Well, I guess I know how they might have did it in Japanese because Japanese they're not called radicals. I forget what they're called, but like sometimes what they'll do is they'll write kanji, especially in shonen manga, and then above the kanji they'll have it read out in hiragana. So usually in shonen manga they'll do this to basically tell you how it's read. Because what can happen is because especially like a young reader isn't necessarily, they're going to be learning new words, and this is how you teach them by they read the kanji and then they see the text above it saying that this is how it's pronounced in the hiragana, which is more the simpler alphabet. But the other ways you could do that is you could have a kanji that an adult might know, but then you can have an alternate reading above it in another letter, like to basically like alternate meanings or double meanings in a sense. So that's a thing you can do apparently. So what they probably did is they had the kanji there, but then they didn't have that alternate reading to explain what it means, because that's my guess. Because in English how did they show Ikomiku Tomoe's name before it was Ikomiku Tomoe without actually telling us what it is? Because we as the audience are never supposed to find that out, so they just portray it in Japanese. Right? And then they explain how they added this other kanji, which is just Ichibei's powers just being fucking crazy and neat again. Because he's just got such an interesting power. That's, so difficult to translate and work with. Like, so it's they didn't even try to translate it. They're just like, fuck it, we're just gonna put the kanji here because I don't know how to do this, right? Like, I'm not in a book, which is like, I get it, I understand. And of course, like, Kenpachi just fucking ruins his life and just kills him.
Bro, it's crazy too because I mean, like, I saw it coming. Not gonna lie, whenever he took out his shikai, because I was already, based on the Hikone stuff, I was like, okay, so he wasn't even using his shikai fighting Hikone, and then when I saw the shikai, I was like, oh, bro, run, bro. My man didn't even use bankai during this entire ordeal, bro.
Nope.
He's just built different. He's just built different. He doesn't need all that.
And it is interesting how the novel was able to like introduce so many strong characters, but also it's like it really didn't go farther than the 1,000. Like it wasn't as bad as the 1,000-Year Blood War by any stretch, right? Like, like just the fact that Kenpachi was barely even trying, but it still didn't take away from the novel at all, even if like the stakes were lower. Bitch, no one cares about stakes. It's like, not no one cares.
I care about cool shit.
The stakes were
cool
the stakes were still worthwhile and good, and led to like especially for Hisagi, really cool stuff, right? So
yeah. I was never even thinking about the stakes, to be honest.
For
I was
sure.
thinking about the cool fucking characters and fights, but this is like this is probably like the least interesting thing I wrote about Hisagi because I have a lot more to say. I just wrote, by accepting the very part of Soul Reapers that he unknowingly rejected, manifesting in his own weapon, he learns to accept all of himself too. He no longer fears the darkness within himself that only mirrored the darkness of the Soul Society that he couldn't see. Now that he can see it and has faced it, he can even stare down death and walk with it, earning him an ability that puts that metaphorical concept into a literal ability. The most congruent Soul Reaper ability in the Soul Society is born. I think that's just so cool. That is Hisagi's ability. I can't stress that enough. So when he's facing Hikone, this is my favorite stuff of the entire novel. Mm-hmm. When he's facing Hikone and his bankai, and I put here in the when it describes that Hikone stops smiling, I put, does this mean that Hisagi's, or does this mean that through Hisagi's bankai, it's the first time in their life that Hikone's felt fear? So the stronger the opponent, the stronger Hisagi's bankai, because the longer it'll last. If they kill Hisagi, they die too. It's a bankai that literally makes the only effective weapon for Hisagi Talk no Jutsu, based in Naruto Pilled. So essentially, like, that the fear Hikone feels is not because of like Hisagi's power. It's all in the words he's speaking that's like rattling Hikone's whole words. It literally, Hisagi's just Naruto pilled, dude. Like, it's so, and there's more to this later on that we get that is just so Naruto pilled. Like, I love Hisagi so much. He's top 3. He's actually top 3 for me after this novel.
So would it be Aizen, Ichigo, Hisagi?
Well, actually, Ichigo surpassed Aizen for me a while ago. I guess I forgot to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah. After I thought a lot about the first... I don't know.
It's
a toss-up.
When we ended the discussion, like, you were... I think you were, like, with me for a moment about Aizen, but then you were... Even then, you were still like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So...
I don't know. It's really honestly, I could see it going any way, depending on the day for me, for all 3 of these characters. I'm not gonna lie.
Ain't that just the big 3 in general?
True. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Well, maybe less so for Naruto because it's like, well, Naruto and Sasuke are so fucking clear, but that's a.
You mean like the characters? Yeah, the characters of the big 3. For sure, Naruto and Sasuke, they're literally my favorite characters in fiction, so they're like unbeatable. Like,
but for
the only one that has come close to me is
yeah.
Rudius from Mushoku Tensei, but like even he, I don't think is clear of them. So, no one's there yet. But I think I can at least say this much for me: Ichigo, Aizen, and Hisagi now are like in a place by themselves. In my favorate characters, like they're not going to be. They're not. Neither all 3 of them are not in danger of getting eclipsed anytime. Mm-hmm. I was going to say anytime soon, but I don't think anytime ever. So, we'll see though. Maybe on a reread in the distant future, this will change. But, and then I wrote here. Wait, fuck. I didn't. Oh, okay, here. Okay, so Hisagi's bankai is the most Soul Reaper bankai ever. It literally governs the life and death of everything within it. Being the most straight arrow example of a Soul Reaper, all Hisagi had to do to gain this is accept the death part that makes Soul Reapers. To reap lives means to begin a new life for Soul Reapers. He'd have to kill a part of Hikone here to birth a new part of them. I think that's really cute. That is really symbolic. And then I wrote. So again, I write so much on Hisagi's bankai. The explanation of his bankai only really being practically useful if he has people around him to pick up the slack. Like, this is the heart. That's the heart, bro. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
This makes it even cooler that Hisagi flat out tells him the way the bankai works instead of letting Hikone whittle themselves down, because he doesn't want anyone to finish off Hikone. He wants to finish this himself through his words. Based in Naruto Pilled again, Hisagi. That's why he tells him. He's like, Hikone, this is how it fucking works, man. Because, yeah, he wants to avoid that conclusion as much as possible. This whole sequence is just like my favorite. It's so cool. It's so cool.
Maybe you got some other things out of it, but just to sort of like kick the windmill into gear, I guess I got some symbolism out of like his inner world, because it focuses, there's a tree, something representing like life, right, which obviously is important for Soul Reapers, and then of course there's the rusted windmill that
death,
starts to move as he like finds his way, because he's specifically like, I'd say the rusted windmill is his sort of equivalent to the water in Ichigo's inner his inner city, basically, right? The rain, right? Where it's like, in this first one where he goes underneath the surface and it's like, oh, there's the water that has been buried, like he's hiding basically, and then later, he's more involved, like the town is flooded because it's right. So with Hisagi, it's his windmill, because he doesn't know what to do, and then it starts kicking into motion, and like that's the last line of the novel is that the windmill is moving. And the wind is blowing rather, so because he's no longer trapped by his fear. So that
is really cool. Yeah. Oh, and then I put also, like, ironically, in sidestepping Hikone's question, he ends up giving them the best answer, and this is about Aura saving Hikone. He says because she wanted to, and that's a concept that Hikone must learn more about to truly mature. Right? That's like what Hisagi wants for Hikone is they want Hikone to do things because Hikone wants to. So I thought that was a really cool quote from Hisagi, like, because it literally says, oh, he's sidestepping the question by saying this, but in actuality it's like the best answer he could have possibly given.
So yeah, I think I'm almost done. I have one more character I want to talk about, but they're really not super relevant to the events of the manga.
Okay, yeah, shoot.
Urahara gets some really fucking good stuff in the final chapter. Not the bonus chapter, but the chapter literally called Final Chapter. Because they sort of because Hisagi's talking with him about the the Hogokyu and stuff, or Hogyoku and stuff, and I thought it was interesting how it's like, because Hisagi justifies it in a positive way. It's like, oh, you're gonna use the Hogyoku to release the Reo and have Soul Reapers collectively like bind the world, basically. And Urahara, which and then Urahara notes that it's because like he does understand himself, and he knows it's sort of similar. Like, I guess this compares him to Kurasuchi in the same way. Like we compared him to Aizen earlier, where it's like, with Aizen and his bankai, it's like he does have desires to remake the world, but has like held that desire in. Where with Kurasuchi, it's like he also has those desires to like. He wasn't looking into the Hogyoku because he wanted to like save the Reo and make the world better.
Yeah, whereas Koretsuchi is outwardly expressive and very transparent. Like Urahara is very shady. He's very inward. He's cucked himself basically.
Right, and I guess like oh my god, that also adds to I guess
that adds to the whole observation of like his power and the way he operates.
Especially I think maybe getting at like how because I mentioned having both the Aizen video and the Urahara Aizen video, and I just realized like one way I can end off, or at least a major point I can bring up in the Urahara Aizen video, is that the biggest difference between Urahara and Aizen is that Urahara does understand his fear. He does understand himself, and that's why he's able to hold these aspects of his character back, right? By forcing his bankai into submission, by not having to give in to who he is, and like not being like Kurasuchi and just being able to like be and I especially like the conversation where it's like, oh well, with Ichigo, Ruki, and Hisagi around, it's like if he does falter, if he does fall down the wrong path, there's someone who can drag him back, right? And just like just really, like I was just really surprised that like, oh, the novel's ending, all the main conflict's done, and suddenly we just get like really good Urahara stuff like right at the very end. And it's like, oh fuck, okay.
It makes I think it makes, especially because Urahara was mostly MIA for this third novel, and I thought he was going to play a way bigger role. It makes sense that we're going to end here in a big moment for him, especially because he was the one that started this whole chain of events, really, with the whole Gyoku's creation. In the beginning of the story, I mean, like to start the story. So to have it kind of sort of end, it doesn't like end on him, but to have, other than the extra chapter, have it end on him, I think is very poignant. And that additional context from him is really, really cool. And yeah, it adds to all we've been talking about the observations we've given on Urahara having inwardly, he has a very sort of sadistic side about him, sort of like ambitious side to him, right? So it adds to that. And I love that the acknowledgement, like you said, the acknowledgement of his ambition took precedent over his sort of moral compass.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have much more to say, unless you want to...
I have a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I wrote, how fucking cool is it that the guy who was confined himself to Tosin's teachings, that didn't understand the sorry, I'm going to reread this entire fucking thing. How fucking cool is it that the guy who was confined to Tosin's teaching that he didn't understand the significance of, which even manifested in his relationship to his Zanpakuto, is now motivated to expand people's perspectives on a wide scale. He wants to share his growth with the world. Hisagi really just is the Naruto of Bleach. Because it's very Naruto. That's exactly what Naruto does. Like, holy shit. This guy is like... It's as if Kubo read all of Naruto and was like, I want to make a character like Naruto. That's what it honestly feels like at the end of this.
Maybe. Or I guess... Because... Would you say that Hisagi was always like this, or do you think it's mostly this volume that adds that angle?
He's probably, I mean, especially in retrospect, Hisagi was always like this. Because he never had just like Naruto in the pain arc. He didn't have an answer. It's only until now when he's blooming and he has an answer. And after this transcendence. So yeah, it's very he's always been kind of Naruto. Okay. It's just now we're seeing the development like Naruto had in the war arc. So he is just Naruto, and I think that's why he's my top 3 now.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's fair.
But he's also top 3 because in his own unique way, he's a lot like Naruto. So that's why. Right?
Well, he's like Naruto, but he's adapted to fit Bleach's themes and ideas.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So,
and that's why it's like I just happen to like Hisagi's type of character very, very much. So yeah. Okay, and the last thing I wrote was about Tosin. In a sense, Tosin feared a world where he could look back on his vengeful path with disgrace. A world he would help create with Aizen. This is why he planned to kill himself, so that he would not have to live in that world of his own creation. Regret. But Hisagi, even after being given the truth of his teacher's words, and being more fearful of death than any, accepted his demise, which awakened him to embrace his own eternal world. Or his own internal world, sorry. He doesn't fear it any longer, just as he doesn't fear the retaliation from the aristocrats in the outer world for continuing his journalistic endeavors, because he will not allow them to get in the way of a new world where the clouds are truly parted, a place where Kakyo and Tosin could see the stars. That's how I ended out. I think that's poignant, beautiful, a good way to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, final thoughts on Cat for Your World. I think it's definitely like it's a. I wonder how rereading it'll go because I don't know how easy it'll be to go through those first 2 novels again.
That's literally what I was thinking when I finished it. I was like, bro, I can't imagine rereading this because I'm just gonna be reading the first 2 novels and go, okay, I want to get back to like the cool shit where all the revelations happen and all the cool fights.
Right. So as a whole, like I still really love Camp for Your Own World, but as if I look at it on the whole, it's like I can only like it so much, I suppose, because what it does do is insanely fucking good, though. I will absolutely say that, though. Like it's like you said, it's on par. It's amazing how like it matches up with Bleach very well.
Yeah. And here's what I'll say. I think the first two volumes, you have to read them. They're integral to being able to appreciate the third volume, obviously. The thing for me is, though, since volume 1 and 2 are essentially just build up, there's really cool interactions and stuff, but a lot of it really is just like all the really, really, really cool shit. It's all packed into volume 3,
Yes.
which is why even in my tweet, I didn't say volume 1 and 2 are like peak Bleach manga material. I said volume 3 is, because that's honestly how I feel. Like, I was, as you can see with how many more notes I took, I was way more engaged in volume 3
Actually,
because
let me
this is where
check.
all the payoff is happening.
Because I want to check how many wrote. So I wrote 700 words of notes on volume 2, 714 words of notes on volume 1, 683, so a little less on volume 2, and I wrote 1,600 words on. I wrote more notes in volume 3 than I did both the other two novels combined.
Yeah, I definitely, and I, since I put it on my like note app on my phone, and all of them are in literally one document.
You can see that
can't
it's probably
really.
the same for you as well, right?
Well, I think it's even more so for me. I'm pretty sure. Like, the discrepancy is even wider. Like, it's. I think it's way more than double the combined amount of volume 1 and two's notes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Peak fiction stuff, and can't figure your own world, guys. That is the final note. I think it's poetic enough that out of this, Hisagi is top 3 for me. Like, that's
Right? Like
crazy.
that, yeah.
I never imagined that would happen, but as soon as I read, it was that quote. I tweeted this, the quote that cemented Hisagi in my top 3. I'll read it right here. Let me open up my Twitter. It's this quote. "This world isn't kind. Just being alive is terrifying. Recalling his past self, then the face of the man who had taught him how to live in this world, he continued in his own words. That's exactly why you've got to be kind to everybody around you, and I will try to do that as well." Damn, man. Damn, Hisagi. He's spitting, man. Yeah, man, the world is scary, but you can make it a little bit less scary for others, man. Like, shit, man. That's what Soul Reapers do! That is what Soul Reapers do! That is the quintessential Soul Reaper thing. Hisagi, you goat. You goat. You absolute goat. You deserve the bankai, man.
Yeah, no, it's Hisagi's really good. Can't Be Wrong was really good. Like, yeah, all the new characters are really interesting. It gets a lot of neat stuff to many of the characters who've already existed. It's just a very additive experience, and it's very good for that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Good
so
stuff,
I guess
guys.
so we have 2 things to end off on. First, I'm going to give the reading list for the next discussion. So
Okay, cool. While you do that, I'm going to pee real quick.
go for it. So first, so I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna probably talk. I have them listed in release order, so we'll probably talk about them in release order. So first is the Burn the Witch one shot. I've already reread it. Actually, in fact, that doesn't matter. We're gonna talk about it soon enough relative to me. Then there's the Burn the Witch manga, which just the 1 volume manga. Then there's the Burn the Witch OVA, which is technically it's the same as the manga, but like I haven't read it or I haven't watched it. And Spicy, when we were talking about it, mentioned he might just check out both. And I figured, fuck it, why not? Like, I know I have to go through the same story twice in 2 different forms. Like, maybe that'll be interesting because we'll be able to talk about the differences. Then there's Hell one shot, the no breathes from Hell. Then there's lastly is the Burn the Witch 0.8 prequel OVA, which is apparently different from. It's not just adapting the one shot. But I have not seen that one at all, so that'll be completely new for me. So relatively less stuff we're talking about. That's probably why the next episode will come out sooner. But that'll be everything. Bleach, obviously, I mean, we're not going to fucking watch the anime or anything. I mean, okay, I'm eventually going to watch the Bleach anime, but I'm not going to, like, it's not going to be part of this podcast. And I do want to watch the whole thing, and obviously catch up to 1,000-Year Blood War, hopefully before it ends or around when it ends, but we'll see. That's going to be a couple of years off, because I'm really, really excited to see what they do with the future of Bleach, because, Burn the Witch feels like an incomplete story. The Hell One arc is obviously coming in some fashion. So yeah, that's our reading list / watching list for the next episode.
Yeah, look forward to it, guys. Look forward to it.
Anyway, we have one more thing to get to.
Bankai! Oh, I'm coming already. This is core 1 and 2 stuff.
Yes. God, look at him. Oh, is this gonna show all the? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh. Okay, showing all the bankai. It is a bankai trailer. Okay.
So that. Okay. All right.
That was it. That was it. Yeah. What we were talking about earlier. Oh, the new bankai that we see that you haven't seen yet. You're getting spoiled right now.
I saw that Radman did a video on it, but
Oh, nice.
I didn't see the video.
Oh, new shit. New shit.
Yes.
This is new. Yo.
God, it looks so good.
Oh wow, that's new. Wait, this is like that was some stuff that we don't see in the manga.
I saw Hisagi. Now it's like, oh, neuron activation. Oh shit!
Oh shit!
Are we gonna get Crossing versus Prenda? That's so cool.
Dude, they're showing so much new shit that's not in the manga.
Ah.
That fucking Uryu shit is not in the manga.
Yeah. Well. But I guess what I'm wondering is it completely new, or is it like additions to stuff that we already get, right? Like expansions. So.
Yeah. Well, what that looked like was him. Based.
Oh. A new poem, right? Yeah, that doesn't look familiar.
Hence, you must never despair. How you never felt before. So
damn. Hold on. Yeah, that because that was the end of it. So, fill yourself with hope for this world is but a scale. Oh, the scale of balance. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You must never despair, so that everything else can sink into despair. Okay. Huh. Oh.
And that's so cool because that connects to literally the dialogue in the finale. Now, don't despair yet, Ichigo. Right.
Right, but of course, like I guess now I'm tying it to Camp in a World where it's like Yobaha brings everyone else down, but like Hisagi's words are like be kind to others, right? Like raise hope instead. Which also ties to his vision of what he thought Urahara was doing with the whole Gyoku, where it's like everyone bearing the burden independently, right? So okay, all right, let's go.
Okay, I was gonna say like that Uryu scene. It's an expansion of an edition there, or an edition of bouncing off that edition they've already done in Core 2. It looked like,
or rather, other way around, where the edition of Core 2 is bouncing off because Camp World came out first. So.
Oh no! I mean like.
Oh.
The Uryu stuff is like a direct continuation of the additional stuff at the end of Core 2. It's looking like I think he's fighting the Bankai there. So that's what it looked like. Yeah, that's what it looked like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't watch Bleach right now. Stop making me want to do that.
Dude,
it's well, you could just catch up after your Blood War. It's like, yeah, but I also just want to watch Bleach for other reasons. So it's like I might as well just do it all.
Yeah, I was so wrapped up in the poem though. Was there a release date somewhere that I missed, or no?
Oh, I closed it. No, I didn't close it. No, because it showed the Viz logo. Nope, it was just the Viz logo.
Shit!
Oh, it says October 20. So it's basically next anime season. Because we're in summer right now, so it's fall. That's very soon. Holy shit! Wait,
that's super close. Wait,
next season. Damn,
we're so back. We're so back. Oh my god. Dude, and Monogatari.
What a good way to
end. The only reason
like
I haven't checked out the new episode of Monogatari too is because I was fucking reading this, bro. There's so much new shit coming out. Holy shit.
Dude, no, and like, yeah, that's just what good timing. Like, we finished this Bleach podcast. It's like, oh, so you want more Bleach? Is that what you want? And it's like, okay.
Good shit, bro. And
right.
I can't wait because I already know. At the end of Core 4, there's going to be that announcement is coming. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Not copium at all.
Anyway, so yeah, thank you everybody for listening. We got one more Bleach podcast for you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this one. And I guess next we're doing. I guess it's just confirmed we're reading Mushoku. Yeah, no, we're reading Mushoku Tensei next.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
So,
guess we hadn't mentioned that yet.
because
Yeah.
because
Sorry,
I guess the idea
guys,
is
I'm like a huge fanboy of it. So
yes.
sorry, you guys are
So
gonna.
the idea
You
is
guys
that we're gonna
hate it.
alternate like short and long. No, like okay, we're alternating picks, and then we'll have like shorter picks and longer picks. So like we'll generally be doing like bigger, longer stuff. But if we want to take a break, we can stop and do shorter stuff. Is I guess the thought. It could completely change. I don't want to be as rigid as an end show was. But so generally, Bleach, I kind of as my pick. So it's Spicy's turn to choose, and he chose the Moshuka Tensei light novels. But you know, if you are interested in those,
Yeah, if
maybe
you guys
you
are
give those a
interested in
read. If not,
Yeah.
then bye. Thank
Fuck
you.
you. Bye.
We have one more Bleach episode anyways, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Two more, actually. Two more technically.
yeah.
I guess it's not going to be. Well, that's not going to be an episode. It's probably
Not
going to be a
a
live stream,
discussion
as
in
we
the same.
discussed.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we'll put a pin in that.
We'll get to that when we get to that.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Anyway, have a good one, everybody. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Bye, bye.